Dear Taurus, prepare your spirit for a message that may make you pause and reflect. This isn't merely a prediction, it's a steady whisper from the universe, meant to resonate with your steadfast core. What lies ahead could shake the very foundation you stand upon, not due to chaos, but because of its profound and unshakable truth. This is why you have found your way to this video, like a warm, grounding invitation guiding you back home. Every tale that follows is genuine, each one rooted in the experience of a heart that has known loss and pain. Yet there's a beautiful twist. They all found their way back to life, much like a true Taurus, through patience, steadfastness, and enduring love. If any of these stories stir something within you, trust that it's no mere coincidence. Your soul recognized this moment as essential. So take a deep breath with me, and let's embark on this journey together. When everything seems to fall apart, that's when the soul truly begins to root itself deeper. It's said that Taurus feels the loss of stability more intensely than any other sign. And perhaps that's true. Not out of weakness, but because they love and build with a devotion and constancy the world often overlooks. When that stability fades, it leaves behind a daunting emptiness, a void that even light struggles to penetrate. 4 years, a span filled with plans, tangible memories, and a love that once felt solid enough to shape destiny. But in the end, that person departed without drama, without a farewell, leaving behind a quiet decision that shattered everything. Taurus clung to the tangible, to routines, to the laughter they once shared. But sometimes love doesn't exit with a bang. It quietly erodes, leaving behind a shadow that lingers in each breath. Taurus doesn't forget, not because they can't, but because their heart holds on to the essence of what it felt like to be secure and loved in someone's embrace. They may not sob aloud, but the pain quietly gnaws, a tribute to something sacred that deserves acknowledgement. Those silent tears aren't just sorrow, they are a slow release, akin to the earth cracking after a long drought. And in that moment of fracture, something begins to sprout. Taurus gazes into the mirror, eyes perhaps swollen from sleepless nights, lips set firmly, whispering, "I will rebuild my own stability, even if no one else does." That promise becomes sacred, a vow without ceremony, rooted in raw truth. As their soul fragments lay scattered, they choose to gather each piece with the patience and care they possess. But life doesn't halt there. A once cherished career transforms into invisible shackles. The hours, the glances, the titles all become hollow. Taurus remains not for their own sake, but out of fear of disrupting stability, of disappointing those who expect so much. Deep down, however, a voice begins to emerge, urging them, "This is not where your light belongs." And so they walk away, not from weakness, but from an awakening of self-worth. This isn't surrender, it's a conscious choice. In that moment, the universe seems to nod in approval. Yet the path ahead isn't without challenges. A medical diagnosis looms, a body that no longer feels as free or strong. A label from a doctor makes the world perceive them as less than whole. Taurus feels pain, not just in their body, but in their very diligent and dependable essence. Yet here lies the miracle of Taurus. They may falter, they may feel shaken, but they refuse to stay down forever. One morning, they look in the mirror and declare, "I'm not broken, I'm regrowing." Their worth is not measured by fleeting productivity, but by the depth of their loyalty, the resilience they show, and the steadfastness they maintain when others have given up. This embodies the essence of Taurus love. Its strength is subtle, yet sacred. Like a deep root anchoring a tree, it's strong enough to make someone pause and breathe amid their pain. Just when they feel depleted, a video appears. Not a famous one, not loud, but gentle, with every word acting as a solid stone to rebuild a door long sealed within their soul. It's as if someone is saying, "I see you. I understand your journey." For the first time in ages, they don't feel adrift. They feel anchored. They close their eyes and may shed a few quiet tears, not from despair, but from the healing that begins to unfold. From that day forward, every sunrise takes on a new significance. Not simpler, but more grounded. They start to write, to pray in their own way, to create. They converse with the divine in the stillness of their settled sorrow. The one who nearly surrendered everything now seeks to become a steady beacon of light for someone else. So, if you identify as a Taurus or have loved someone like this, recognize this. Their heart contains fertile ground. Their silence conceals a tamed tempest. But their soul was born to flourish even in darkness. If these words resonate, perhaps you too are ready to begin your own regrowth. Maybe it's time to whisper, "I forgive the silence. I honor the breaking, and I choose myself." Taurus doesn't need to shout to be acknowledged. Their healing emerges from quiet revolutions, from small yet courageous and consistent decisions. What may seem like an ending could actually be the dawn of something sacred and lasting. Because sometimes, dear one, the universe allows everything to crumble so that your soul can root and flourish in its entirety. When you're learning to rise again after being shattered, when the final tears dry but your heart still quivers with a quiet resolve, that's not a sign of weakness. It's sacred ground before transformation. It is precisely in the space between breaking and rebirth that a new journey begins. A journey where healing is no longer a tale of the past, but the presence of something more sacred and solid. And that journey, dear Taurus, is unfolding for you. After every loss, there's always a voice beckoning you closer. There's a light waiting for you, hidden within the very darkness you once feared the most. So let's step together into the next chapter of healing and awakening, moving into the light where the heart no longer bleeds, but starts to beat for a new purpose. Where Taurus not only survives, but becomes a steadfast lighthouse for other weary souls. Are you ready to embrace that light? Keep moving forward. There are moments in life when all external noise fades away. And that's precisely when the inner voice begins to speak. For Taurus, this voice often manifests as a grounding light, soft, persistent, guiding you back to your true self. After enduring long days of pain, many retreat into silence. But Taurus is different. They listen with their whole being. They hear the faint tremor of the soul. They tune in to the fragile yet sincere rhythm of the heart. Within that silence, an awakening occurs. Not loud, not dramatic, but profoundly transformative. Someone once stepped away from a stable job, leaving behind the sterile office lights and cold metrics to pursue a path that fear of insecurity once held at bay. They embraced gardening, meditation, and connecting with the earth, not as an escape from life, but as a return to truly living it. For the first time in years, they felt their body truly listening. They became aware of their breath, their heartbeat. no longer a machine, but a soul, reclaiming its essence. Another individual, after a life-altering accident, had to leave behind the familiar. The sensation of losing both body and spirit transcends words. Yet in that collapse, they began asking questions they'd never dared to voice. Am I truly living, or merely existing to satisfy others? That inquiry led them to their roots, where ancestral wounds awaited healing. They began to write, to cry, to redraw a childhood they'd never been allowed to experience. When they picked up a paintbrush again after 2 decades, time seemed to freeze. They painted not to showcase talent, but to breathe. Each stroke whispered to their inner child, I'm here now, I see you, you deserve to live. No one taught them this. It was the memory of the soul, like a gentle warm light filtering through a crack in the door at dawn. Not blinding, but just enough to awaken a forgotten child within. Another turned to aromatherapy and herbal medicine, not to escape reality, but to confront wounds that logic could never reach. They revisited the moment they cried under a table as a child. They embraced their 8-year-old self and forgave the one who never learned to love them properly. You see, dear Taurus, awakening isn't a peak. It's a descent to the depths, to the very earth of your being. From that profound place, a light emerges, fragile yet indomitable. In one comment, someone shared, "You are the light in my life," not because they were rescued, but because they felt seen. Sometimes healing begins simply by acknowledging that you are not invisible. They no longer flee from darkness. They sit with it, gazing into its depths, saying, I'm not afraid of you anymore. You are part of me, and I love you. At that moment, their soul steps into the light. From being paralyzed by the past, they begin to live fully in the present. Each day becomes a step closer to their true self. This is Taurus's sacred gift. They heal not by denying darkness, but by embracing it, by tilling it into fertile ground. If you're hearing these words, perhaps you're navigating that journey yourself, wrestling with forgiveness and letting go. Maybe you're searching for light in a room devoid of windows. Let your heart guide you. It knows the way. It may have lost its way before, but it is now returning home. Because within the heart of a Taurus, there's always an ember that never extinguishes. Belief. Belief that every pain serves a purpose, that every tear is noted by the universe, and that the light is always there, waiting for you to believe in it once more. If you're still with me, know that you are not alone. Countless Taurus souls are quietly rising from their own struggles, and as they rise, they become beacons of steadfast light for others. In the next segment, we'll delve deeper into this path together: passion and soul purpose. The call from within, where once forgotten dreams begin to resurface, where passion transcends joy and transforms into mission, where your heart no longer seeks permission to shine. Are you ready to reconnect with the most beautiful, grounded part of yourself? Let's continue. There's a calling that transcends words. It whispers in dreams, in moments when a piece of music leaves you breathless, or when you touch a blank page and your heart flutters like the first time you fell in love. That's passion. For Taurus, passion isn't defined by career. It's the soul reminding you of your essence, often expressed through tangible creation or sensory experience. Someone once wrote children's books, not for fame, but because they were once a child who felt unheard. The stories they penned weren't for the market, they were for the heart. Each page wrapped around the child they used to be like a warm blanket. No one taught them to write with such emotion. It was the whisper of the soul, an intricate map embedded in their heart. They once thought, "I'm not good enough." But one night, while rereading their first draft, through quiet sobs, they realized, "I don't write to be accepted, I write to live." Another person, who once loved painting so much they took pencils to bed, grew up in an environment where art was deemed frivolous, and so their brush was locked away. The dream was caged. It wasn't until they faced job loss at nearly 40 that they stumbled upon their old box of paints. Their hands trembled, but when they touched the paper for the first time, tears flowed. Not from pain, but from the soul, finally speaking again. In that first painting, needing no audience, they gifted themselves something profound. Taurus, how many times have you sidelined your passion because others didn't understand, or because it didn't seem practical? How often have you felt your heart race while creating, building, or nurturing, only to silence it with logic? The universe understands, and each time you return to what ignites your spirit, you're on the right path. Another individual shared that they journal daily, not to preserve memories, but because they feel compelled to. There's something sacred urging them to document their journey. Each line is a heartbeat, a wound acknowledged, a piece of darkness illuminated. Once, they penned a passage that brought them to tears, not because the words were beautiful, but because they recognized, "This is me. This is the truth I never dared to voice." From that day forward, they no longer wrote for perfection. They wrote for authenticity. Someone left the teaching profession, doubting their worth, only to switch to aviation, where they smiled at countless passengers daily. Yet they felt empty until one day, a former student hugged them and said, "You changed my life." Just those few words cracked everything open, allowing old passions to flood back in as if they had never left. They returned, not to start anew, but to continue, because a calling, no matter how far we stray, always waits for us to come home. Taurus doesn't pursue endeavors for fame. They do it for the simple, tangible joy of being themselves, something no one can take away. Another person found joy in physical activities: gym, jogging, yoga. To outsiders, it's merely exercise, but for them, it's a form of prayer, a way to ground themselves. It's a way to reconnect with every cell that has been shattered by pain. Each weight lifted, each deep breath, feels like reconstructing their heart. Not a romantic heart, but one filled with purpose, willpower, and loyalty to themselves. Amid the world's noise, Taurus chooses the silence of passion. They don't boast, they simply act with full presence, as if performing a sacred grounding ritual. Do you see yourself in these stories? If so, it's not a coincidence. It's your soul gently nudging you, saying, "We're not finished doing what we were born to do." Rewrite that draft. Pick up the brush again. Play the music once more. Sign up for that class again. Run that extra lap. Passion doesn't require understanding. It simply demands to be lived, to be made real. And you, dear Taurus, were not born to appease the world. You were born to illuminate it in the gentlest, most enduring, and grounded manner. In the next segment, I'll guide you to a deeper dimension where you not only heal yourself, but also become a light for others. Where you realize that every loss is a divine arrangement, every wound a doorway, and the universe always leaves traces within your pain, often in the most tangible ways. Prepare yourself, for the next part will unveil a secret that hasn't been shared with you before. destiny, and messages from the universe are never random. Have you ever paused in a fleeting moment to ponder why you're hearing this precisely now? For Taurus, coincidences are rarely just that. They are gentle, steady signals emerging from somewhere deep within, often manifesting in the physical world. Someone once shared that just when they were on the brink of giving up, they took a stroll in the forest, not searching for anything, just wandering. Then, they encountered a mother deer and her fawn, standing still in the soft, dusk light. Their eyes met, no fear, just an absolute acceptance. In that moment, they burst into tears, not knowing why, but feeling something sacred touch their soul. For Taurus, the sacred doesn't require explanation. It simply needs to be felt, often through nature or a profound, quiet connection. Symbols like a butterfly fluttering into your space, a perfectly shaped stone appearing on your path, or a sudden, calming breeze brushing against you in your sorrow are the universe's way of saying, "I'm here, I see you, you are grounded." Another person, once skeptical of everything, tarot, spirituality, intuition, thought it was all just mind games. But one sleepless night, they picked a tarot card, simply because it was for Taurus. For the first time, they felt the reading resonate with their heart. They shivered, not out of fear, but because every word seemed tailor-made for them, offering practical wisdom. Strangely enough, each time they chose the next card, intuition guided them to precisely what they needed to hear. From that moment on, they stopped questioning. How could this be a coincidence? Instead, they smiled and said, "Thank you, universe." Someone else discovered their creativity after watching a healing video by chance. They felt a sense of liberation, a desire to build something new. From that day forward, they wrote, painted, and composed music. No one asked them to, no one praised them, but they sensed that 3 new paths had opened before them, and they had the freedom to choose whichever made their heart race and felt most real. They no longer waited for miracles. They recognized that they themselves were the miracle, capable of creating beauty and stability. There's something unique about Taurus. They often feel as if they're straddling 2 worlds, one noisy and tangible, the other silent, sacred, and deeply connected to the earth. Others may label them as stubborn or too slow, but only Taurus understands that within them lies a compass invisible to others, always pointing toward truth and what is real. Someone once reflected that after years of feeling lost, they finally understood, "I wasn't wrong. I was simply attuned to a different, more deliberate melody." Perhaps you're hearing that melody too. Maybe you've noticed those small signs, a stranger's kind words that made you pause, a video that brought you to tears of recognition, or a glance in the mirror that prompted you to breathe deeply and feel your own strength. None of it was random. All of it was the universe's way of affirming to Taurus, "You are seen, you are loved, you are on your way home, to your solid ground." You didn't stumble upon this video by chance. Your heart recognized the invitation before your mind could comprehend it. If you're still here, know that you are not alone in this feeling. What you see, what resonates with you, is the key that unlocks the sacred door of your life. The next part will take you to profound depths, the empathy shared between souls who have experienced brokenness and rebuilt, no longer guided from the outside, but connected from heart to heart in a real and tangible way. A journey where you not only heal, but become a pillar of strength for others. Let's step together into the next chapter: reconciliation and connection. Healing old relationships, where a single, honest word can save a soul. This is not just about mending what was broken. It's about understanding that true reconciliation begins when the heart is gentle and patient enough to see someone, be it another person or oneself, through eyes free from anger and resentment, seeing their inherent worth. Imagine a father who, after years of silence and arguments, finds a way to reach out to his estranged daughter. He listens to a tarot reading that speaks of the signs that resonate with her, and for the first time, he understands that she doesn't need someone who is always right. She needs someone who truly understands her, who offers a safe space. With a simple heart emoji, he sends the video to her, and that small gesture opens the door to a new kind of silence, one filled with empathy and the potential for rebuilding. Consider the nurse who once feared death, panicking at the thought of losing a patient. One day, an elderly man, nearing his final moments, takes her hand and whispers, "You don't have to save me. Just be here. Your presence is enough." In that moment, she learns the power of presence. Not to fix, but to simply be, to offer comfort. This realization transforms her fear into understanding, allowing her to see that death doesn't take away the soul. It merely returns it to the light, a natural cycle. Another story unfolds of someone who lost everything due to a financial crisis. Not just their home, but their self-worth and belief in their capabilities. They once saw themselves as a failure, but one ordinary morning, a job offer arrives. It's not just the highest-paying position they've ever had, it's a place where they can finally be themselves, where their steady nature is valued. They weep, not for the money, but for being seen, for receiving a chance to rewrite a chapter that had once been erased, to rebuild their security. There's also the individual who, after many upheavals, decides to return to the place where they once stumbled, the foundation that once crumbled. They don't pretend to be strong. They simply acknowledge, "I'm not finished with this place. I need to make peace." They walk back to the classroom where they once cried, to the street where they said goodbye. But this time, they do so with a steady heartbeat, a quiet resolve. Reconciliation often isn't about forgiving others. It's about forgiving oneself for not being perfect, for needing time. It's the embrace you give yourself after countless days of quiet anger, after so many moments of self-blame. Someone once felt lost among many passions, unsure of what to pursue. They tried writing, teaching, creating art, only to give up on all of it, feeling they weren't mastering any. But upon hearing a reading that mentioned Taurus, they suddenly realized they didn't have to choose one single path to perfection. They were a beautiful tapestry of all their interests, each one adding to their rich inner landscape. They understood that their multifaceted nature, their ability to appreciate and cultivate many things, was their unique beauty. From that moment, they stopped trying to define themselves with a single label. They chose to live authentically and fully, embracing all parts of their grounded being. Taurus doesn't require validation from others. They simply need the opportunity and the secure base to begin anew, to build again. Each time they start over, they dive deeper, not to prove anything, but to live closer to their heart, to what feels real and true. As you reflect on these stories, ask yourself, is there someone you still harbor resentment towards? A situation that still feels unsettled? Is there something you've been holding on to, like an unhealed wound that prevents new growth? Close your eyes, take a deep breath, feel the earth beneath you, and forgive. Not to release them, but to allow your heart to breathe freely, to make space for new foundations. We've now reached the culmination of this healing journey, from breaking to awakening, to reconnection and rebuilding. You are still here, still standing, and that alone is a miracle of endurance. Like that moment at the end of the day when the last light kisses your face, you realize you are still here, with a soul untouched in its core strength and ready to love and build again. Thank you, dear Taurus soul, for listening with an open heart, for believing that love, light, truth, and stability always find their way back. If you feel moved, I invite you to leave a message below this video. I have forgiven, and I am coming back to life, stronger and more grounded. Sometimes, just a whisper of shared strength can save someone standing on the edge. Be that steady light, wishing you enough peace to forgive, enough light to keep moving forward, and enough love to return home to yourself, to your own unshakable ground.